Jai Hind students. So today we are here with another complex lecture on embedded systems. Embedded system is an open elective subject which runs with the code BOE 062. So for unit 3 there is a complex topic named EDLC, Embedded Product Development Lifecycle. So EDLC is basically how an embedded product is developed starting from the scratch, and the main important things here are to study the need of it, various phases of it, and and how the objectives of an embedded product development are achieved. So first of all, we have in EDLC, it is an analysis, design and implementation based problem solving approach. Okay, so the three main keywords here are analysis, design and implementation. First of all, we have to analyze that what product is required to be developed. Okay, so when you start with the product development, embedded product development, the first question that should come into your mind is what is the need? What is the requirement of the customer? What is the requirement of the market? So according to that, you have to decide what product is required to be developed. So first of all, what product is required to be developed? This is the requirement. Then we need to focus on design. What design is required to be, what should be the best approach for building it? What should be the best design to implement it? And finally, at the end, we have implementation. Means how we can implement what design we have prepared, what layout we have designed. Okay, so embedded product development life cycle, that means EDLC is basically a 3-step process. We have to analyze first. Okay, we have to understand the need of the customer, the need of the market. Then we have to prepare a design for it. What should be the good appropriate design for building it? And then we have to develop it through implementation. So it is based upon 3 different steps, as I have already discussed. Analysis, which involves understanding what product is required to be developed as per the requirement of market, as per the requirement of maybe it may be a group of people, it may be a section of people, it may be some certain population, it may be certain group of population. Okay, design, which involves what approach is used to build the product, and implementation is developing the product by realizing its design. Okay, so this is a 3-step methodology for EDLC. ये वाला question आपका 2 marks में अक्सर पूछा जाता है. Then need, why EDLC is required? EDLC is essential for understanding the scope and complexity of the work involved in embedded system development. So what is the scope of your product which you are trying to build? Okay, what are the complexities that will be involved during the building, during the implementation of that product? It is used for any developing embedded product. किसी भी embedded product के development के लिए जब आप चलते हैं, तो it is very essential to have a proper cycle, to have a proper embedded product development life cycle, which should be followed. The steps should be followed. EDLC defines interaction and activities among various groups of a product development phase. So in the further slides, we will be studying the various phases, and you will understand more deeply how the different phases are connected and how they communicate with each other, so that the embedded product that we are trying to develop should have no flaws. So the 3 primary objectives of EDLC are ensuring high quality for products. Obviously, when you are trying to build an embedded product, you want it to be market ready, you want it to be acceptable among the customers, among your clients. So it should be having very high quality. Risk minimization and defect prevention through management. Okay, so through management, through efficient management, you want the risk to be minimized and the errors to be detected and prevented in time, well in time, and maximize the productivity. So these are the 3 objectives of EDLC. A question may be asked. So the question can be framed out of this in different ways. Like for example, what do you understand by EDLC first of all? Then what is the need of EDLC, and what are the objectives of EDLC? Finally, we'll here study the phases of EDLC. How the embedded product life cycle actually process. What is the entire process? So we'll start with need. Need is the first step. Okay, So need, we have to determine the need, and it may come from an individual or from the public or from a company. As मैंने अभी पिछली slides में भी आपसे ये बात mention करी कि the need, the requirement of the product is required to be determined, which is the very first step. Okay, now this need may come from a single customer, it may come from public, it may come from a separate section of your society. Okay, the need should be initiate the development life cycle, and it should initiate the development life cycle. As happens in research, we find out what is the application, what are the research gaps over there, and then we try to find out a solution. We try to give a solution to the society that for this problem, I have proposed this solution, I have proposed this product, and it is much better than the existing ones. Okay, so you have determined the need. Now the need can be visualized in any one of the three cases. The need can be entirely new customer product is required to be launched into the market. Okay, then product re-engineering. The product is already existing in the market, but it requires some kind of re-engineering. It is requiring some kind of upgrades so that it can give better results, better efficiency. Okay, or product maintenance. So there can be three kinds of needs. And first type of need is when there is a need of entirely new product in the market, entirely new category. Okay, next, when a product is already existing and some upgrades or re-engineering is required in that. And third one is regarding the maintenance, product maintenance. Then after need, you can see here, this is the need section. Then after need, we move to conceptualization. So what do you mean by conceptualization? Here we define the scope of the concept. Okay, what is the scope of the product that you are trying to build? Suppose you are thinking of developing an embedded product. So you have understand the need of the market, the need of the customer. Now you have to build a scope of the product. What is the scope of my product? Cost benefit analysis करेंगे आप कि अगर मैंने इतनी capital लगाई तो what will be my revenue? What kind of revenue or what amount of revenue this product can generate from market? Okay, so conceptualization involves a lot of factors, including feasibility study, that is examining the need and suggest possible solutions. How feasible your product is. Then cost benefit analysis, revealing and assessing the total development cost and profit expected from the product. Okay, so what is the capital expenditure that I need to spend over it, and what is the revenue that I expect from this product? Cost benefit analysis करेंगे आप. Product scope, it deals with the activities involved in the product to be made. Product का scope क्या है? ठीक है, I already mentioned. Planning activities, then you will plan various needs to be developed first before development, like resource planning, risk management plans, etc. Okay, so once you have understood the need, then in the second step we move to conceptualization. That is, we are building the scope of the project, including cost benefit analysis, including the strategies for risk management, including all the other aspects which are related to your product. Then moving on to the diagram को एक बार फिर से देख लेते हैं. After need, we move to conceptualization, and then from after conceptualization we move to analysis. Now analysis, finally the product is defined in detail with respect to inputs, processes, outputs and interfaces at a functional level. Now you have understood the need, you have found out the scope of your project, how feasible the project will be, how risk management will be taken care of and all that. Okay, now what you will do, you will analyze the entire functionality of the project. What are the inputs, what are the outputs, what is the functionality. Okay, so on the hardware level, on the functional level, now you will analyze the entire project in detail. So first activity in analysis is analysis and documentation. It specifies the business needs of the product under development. What are the business needs of the product which you are trying to develop? Then requirements that are needed to be addressed includes functional capabilities like performance. What is the performance? How the performance of your product will be judged, how it will be measured. Operational and non-operational quality attributes. What are the quality attributes of the product under development? Product external interface requirements. Okay, now what are external interface requirements? Product needs to be connected, product needs to be interfaced with other external devices. So what are the external interfaces of the product? Data requirements and user manuals. Okay, so whenever you are launching some kind of product, some kind of new innovative product, you have to give the data requirements and user manuals with that. Operational requirements, maintenance requirements and general assumptions. So basically the crux of the entire thing is, in analysis, what we are doing is, we are doing an in-depth analysis of the functionality of the product from functionality point of view. Then we have design phase. Okay, so let us check the diagram once again. We started with need, then we moved to conceptualization, then we moved to analysis, and then here we have design. So, design phase. Now, we have to identify the application environment and create an overall architecture for the product. We have to build the first prototype. Okay, we have to build the first prototype of the functioning model of the product, which is also called as preliminary design. Okay, it starts with the preliminary design. It establishes the top level architecture for the product. The preliminary design will be just like, if you imagine a black box, there will be inputs, there will be outputs, and a black box in between. Okay, so you have well understood what are the inputs that are required to be provided to your product, what will be the output, and then there is a black box in between. So this is called the first prototype or the preliminary design. Okay, the final product is called PDD, that is preliminary design document. After PDD, the end user create the detailed design. Okay, then preliminary design एक बार तय कर लें आप, inputs outputs decide हो जाएं, then after that you move to the detailed design. The detailed design will have obviously some more operational manual design, maintenance manual design, product training material design, and all together they club and form the detailed design document DDD after PDD. Then we have development and testing phase. Okay, so till now we have understood, first of all हमने need देखा, what is the need for the product, क्या बनाना है. Okay, then conceptualization, that is what is the scope of the product. Then analysis, functionality का analysis, in-depth details of the product. Then we move to design. What will be the design? Design का आपने prototype बनाया with the help of preliminary design and detailed design. And then we move to development and testing phase. Development means designing the particular product into hardware and software. Now, you will realize whatever you have designed, whatever you have, prepared a document on the paper. Now you have to convert that paper into a real model having hardware and software. Okay, so this is the development phase. Testing phase can be divided into independent testing of hardware and software. Okay, so there are products. Embedded system is actually an integration of hardware and software where you combine both of these to develop a product. Okay, so testing can be divided between these two. And the types of testing are, first is unit testing. Unit testing means checking off the individual modules which you have created. Then we have integration testing. Integration means कुछ चीजों को, कुछ units को club करके एक group बना देना. ठीक है? So testing a group of modules for required functionality is called integration testing. Then we have system testing. Testing the functional aspects or functional requirements of the product after integration. Okay, so the complete system, when it is checked for, this is called system integration. Then user acceptance testing. User की कितनी acceptance आएगी उस particular product के लिए, उसको अगर आपको test करना है, that is called user acceptance testing. How the product will be, whether it will be appreciated, whether there are some flaws from the user point of view. So user acceptance testing is the fourth one. After development and testing, we have the next phase, which is called deployment phase. Deployment means whatever we have designed, whatever we have built, whatever we have, now the time is to implement it, to deploy it. Okay, so deployment phase is the process of launching the first fully functional model of the product in the market. You have prepared a first fully functional product. Now it's time to launch your product in the market, which is called deployment phase. It is also known as first customer shipping. ठीक है, तो इसी चीज को आप first customer shipping भी कह सकते हैं, because now you have launched the first prototype, the first fully functional model of your embedded product into the market. So this is called deployment phase. Next we have support phase. Obviously, as you have seen, with every product, there is a toll-free number given to you, which provides 24/7 support in backend for maintenance and all the related activities. So the support level deals with the operational and maintenance of the product in the production environment. It involves activities involved in support phase will be 24/7 support for the product. After launching, identify the areas of improvement. Okay. So support phase, as you all know, with every product we have a toll-free numbers, and whenever we face some issues regarding the functionality of it, regarding the maintenance of it, we generally call on these two toll-free numbers, and we get some assistance within a particular estimated time, a number of days, we get the assistance back. So this is the support phase, which is very important. Once you have deployed your product in the market, support phase is very important. First of all, support phase is important because you are getting the inquiry from the customer regarding operation, regarding maintenance, regarding functionality of the product. Second, you also get a kind of feedback from the customer. Okay, so the support phase also functions, it identifies the areas of improvement. So through the support system, through the support call, you will come to realize that what are the areas where you have to work to upgrade your product. Okay, so next, connected with this chain is the upgraded phase. That means now you have deployed the product in the market. Through support, you have gathered some information about the functionality and operational maintenance requirement areas. So now if there is a need to have some upgrades in certain areas of the product, you can identify them and you can upgrade your product. Okay, so it deals with the development of upgrades, that is new versions for the product which is already present in the market. During the upgrade phase, the system is subjected to design modifications in major areas. So there might be some areas in the product, in the design, maybe in the software, maybe in the hardware part where you need to apply some upgrades. So this is the upgrade phase after support phase. Then the final phase is called the retirement or disposal phase. Okay, so this retirement or disposal phase, actually this kind of phase comes very gradually and very slowly in the life cycle of an embedded product, when it is sometimes vanished from the market. For example, you all must have seen the big size TV in which there was a large, एक पीछे से एक enlargement सा होता था, and that was a huge box, a heavy box TV. So this product has now been vanished from the market and been replaced by the LEDs, the thin slim LEDs which are hanged on your walls and very portable, very convenient, very flexible to use. So this is a step which we called retirement or disposal of the product from the market. कब होगा ये? When it is replaced by some better advanced version of that product only. Okay, when it is no longer used by the customer. So the retirement or disposal of the product is a gradual process. It does not come very fast. It comes very slowly, very gradually in the life cycle of an embedded product. This is the final phase in the product development life cycle, and the product is declared as discontinued from the market. Okay, so in this case, the product is retired or disposed. It is essential due to increased user needs and rapid technology advancement. So there may be a rapid technology advancement because of which the product has actually been upgraded to a newer version, to a better version. That's why it has been disposed from the market. Now, we will again move to the diagram and we'll recall all the phases once again so that the cycle can be completed at the end. So EDLC product development life cycle. First of all, we started with need. That means we have to understand what is the requirement of the product. Which group of customer requires it, whether a certain population requires it, whether a group of people requires it. Okay, and what kind of need is it? A new product is required to be developed, or some upgradation or re-engineering is required in the existing product. Then from need we move to conceptualization. Conceptualization means we understood the scope of the entire product which we are planning to build. That is, what is the cost benefit analysis, what is the functionality issues, what is the risk management, and all that. After conceptualization, we move to analysis, which involves in-depth detailed analysis of the functional requirements of the product. After analysis, we move to design. And in design, what we have done, we have built the first prototype of the product, a preliminary design and a detailed design. We have prepared a preliminary design first and a detailed design in which every functionality of the product is being mentioned, cleared. Then we move to development and testing, which means whatever design we have decided in the previous phase, now we have to develop it into real hardware and software functionality product. Okay, then comes testing. Now you will perform testing for the product which you have developed. So testing can be of 4 stages. First is unit testing, which means checking each and every single module. Then when you club some modules, form some groups and perform testing, it is called integration testing. Then system testing, when you check the entire product functionality as a whole, then it is called system testing. And the last type of testing was user acceptance testing. Means you are testing the product from the point of view of the customer, from the point of view of your client. You are testing whether it is acceptable or not to the customer. Okay. So after development and testing phase, we move to deployment phase. Deployment phase comes when you have to implement or launch your first product, the first fully functional model to the market, which is also called first customer shipping. Then you have launched the product in the market and you have to provide a 24/7 support to that product for operational, maintenance and functionality purposes. Okay. From this support phase, we move to upgrades. Because from the support phase only, we sometimes also come to know about the flaws in the product, the various areas of improvement which can be, implemented in the product, can be upgraded to a better version of itself. So after support, we have upgrades phase, and after upgrades, we have retirement phase. Retirement or disposal of the product is the last stage. Okay, comes very gradually in the life cycle, and it comes either due to advancement of the technology or due to the increased customer demands, more customer demands. Okay, so this is the entire life cycle of EDLC, which you have seen here, the various phases of EDLC, and it is a very frequently asked question in your internals as well as externals for embedded systems. Need, conceptualization, analysis, design, development and testing, deployment, support, upgrades, and finally retirement and disposal. So you can attempt this question with all these points and along with this diagram. That's all for today's lecture. Thank you, students.